welcome to a new Once Upon a Time review for the first time on my channel. So welcome if you came from Happy Cool, and welcome if you're just new. This week's episode was called Street Rats. Let's start with some quick thoughts. I thought it was really funny how when they're trying to find Aladdin, they're like, yeah, we just can't find him because everything he had, he just stole. Archie taking care of little Robin. Poor guy, he's like stuck with a babysitting job that he didn't even really volunteer to do. However, that also brings me to talking about Zelena because I'm not really loving her storyline this season. It started okay, but now it just feels like she just randomly pops in whenever the evil queen wants to like talk to someone, and I just feel like this whole thing could have just been skipped. I don't think it really added anything, and on top of it, I feel like we've had this whole character development for Zelena, and now she's going back to the way she was. So I'm like, what? No, let's just stop. Let's stop. Let's move on to Emma. So Emma finally told her family, except it wasn't really her idea. It was the evil queen as Archie that made her tell them, which I'm glad that they now know because obviously they reacted pretty well to the news. But at the same time, I'm not happy that it was the evil queen that forced Emma to tell them. I feel like it would have been much more interesting if she had decided to tell them. And also, it doesn't even make sense why the evil queen would force her to tell her family because it actually ended up helping Emma. So I'm like, wait, aren't you trying to like not help her and yet you're helping her? I did think it was really ironic when Snow says, your father and I may not be perfect, but we don't keep secrets from each other. And we're like, ooh, we kind of do. I mean, he does. So yeah. And speaking of secrets, Emma tells Hook no more secrets, which I feel like they've told each other a lot of times, but you know, no more secrets apparently, except that she then gives him the shears to get rid of, and what does he do? Doesn't do it. Come on guys, like seriously. Please learn from your mistake. Stop not telling each other things. If you don't want Emma to get rid of the shears, tell her, Hook. Don't just like pretend like, oh well, we'll do whatever you want. No! Share your opinion and then decide on what you want to do together. In other news, even though Hook didn't get rid of the shears, which by the way, I think is a good idea because you never know if you're going to need them, I actually think they might come into play at some point later this season, but I don't think they will be used. I think they will find a different way to save Emma while her keeping her powers, or at least I'm hoping that they find a way around it. Let's move on to Aladdin. We finally have a backstory for Aladdin, which I actually enjoyed. I love the open sesame and also like the little Abu like statue that he uses to kind of switch it out. I feel, well, I call him Abu. I don't know if it was Abu, but I think that since we're not getting Abu, then that's probably like Easter egg or kind of a wink for the audience that did love the Disney movie. And I kind of wish that they had found a lantern with a genie. I mean, come on. Although I guess they did have the genie in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. So it would have been kind of cool if he found it, right? Like tie the two together. Let's make it happen. Yes, please. Now the bad news is, even though it seemed like Aladdin was all ready to be the savior and help Jasmine and Agrabah, he decided to just kind of cut that part out of himself. So now I wonder if that's why Emma became the savior. Like when one savior is done, then it goes on to the next one. So because he took it out of himself, then it like kind of went on to Emma or something like that. Kind of like in Buffy the Vampire Slayers, there's only like once one Slayer died, a new one is like born or activated sort of. So in this case, you know, once the savior is gone, then you have a new one that's activated. I do hope we find a little more about the savior mythology though, because I think we got a little bit, but I'm like, I want more. Share stories, you know, sit down and say, you know, talk about your experiences being saviors. Maybe you'll like learn from each other. I don't know. I do have to bring up the fact that we found out Aladdin had been in Storybrooke this whole time. You know, that's where he was hiding. And I was like, really? It just reminded me of Lost, and I don't know if you remember the characters of Nikki and Paolo that were introduced in season 3, and they were suddenly part of the main characters, like they were like going along, and it was as if they had been there this whole time, and nobody really addressed that, and we were like, really? I don't think they were on the island this whole time. I mean, they literally just appeared out of nowhere. And I feel like this is a little bit the same, like, oh, I've been here this whole time, and it's like, really, were you? Because I feel like we've been watching this show for like 5 seasons now, and we never really saw you, you know? I feel like they would have brought him up. I don't know. You could argue that he was, you know, keeping a low profile, but I wish they had come up with a better explanation of where he was. But overall, I did enjoy the Aladdin story. And the reunion with Jasmine, that was sweet. I do have some final questions, starting with the Oracle. We now know that the red bird is the Oracle because in the flashback, Jafar explains that the red bird is an Oracle. So I'm thinking that possibly the red bird ended up leaving Jafar and going to help Aladdin, which is where we find her at the beginning of the season. And then that would explain the Oracle in Storybrooke with the red bird and Emma following the red bird because it is the Oracle. Fortunately, the Oracle is dead because the evil queen killed her. Now, I'm not 100% sure why she killed the Oracle. Is it just because she's evil, or did she want to stop Emma from getting visions? It wasn't really clear to me. I'm just a little unsure. Like, are we just randomly killing people now? I don't know. And also, since we know that Aladdin was in Storybook this whole time, why was Jasmine in the Land of Untold Stories? Did she go there in order to stop the destruction of Agrabah, in order to stop Jafar? That's what I'm thinking, but we don't know, so still so many questions. And that's all I have for this episode. Of course, we'd love to hear some of your thoughts. What are your theories in terms of Jasmine and the Land of Untold Stories? What about Emma? Do you think she will find a way to survive and stay the savior? Let me know in the comments. Next week, we're going to be delving into Hook's past once again. We're going 20,000 leagues under the sea.